Alright, we'll start recording. I'm going to go over that inventory thing that I was showing last time. I haven't actually done it yet, so let's try and get this done really fast because I do want to show you some Quake stuff. There is an event in Quake this Saturday that I'd like for us to join in on, so we need to get that set up. Okay, so here we got the main character, and what we are going to do, let me delete this out. Start from scratch. There. Okay, so we're going to make a new variable to hold the inventory. And so the inventory is going to be what's called a map. And this right here, which was hidden by my face before, is where you can set something to be a map like this. And we want it to be a mapping between strings and, let's say, integers. So what that means is that you could have, let's say you have a string for like bullets and a string for rockets. And so the string for bullets could be associated with the number 20. And every time you fire your gun, you could reduce the count of bullets you have by 1. And every time you fire a rocket launcher, the rockets count could go down by 1 as well. And so you could do this using just a bunch of different variables in here. We can make a variable for bullets and a variable for rockets and things like that. That's also doable. But by using a map, you can have sort of an infinite number of possible values and things without needing to, kind of dirty this up with all these kinds of things. So if you have an inventory, get the inventory, pull out from this. You can add a new key to it. So if you pick up a new thing, you can add a new, like you pick up a flower, you can add an entry into the inventory for flowers. Compile, save. So the inventory here, let's get my face out of the way again. The inventory here, I have glitter ball ammo that's set to 30, and I can add cat ammo set to 10. And so what I can do is I can pull off from here, and let's say I'm going to do an event tick, and I just want my ammo to recharge over time. Let's say that every second that goes by, we get 1 more glitter ball ammo and 1 more cat ammo. Okay. So I'm just going to tie this in with a delay node, so we don't have to worry about the delta t on this, delay for 1 second. So every second we are going to increment the value of glitter ball ammo and cat ammo up to 30. And we'll probably need to set the max ammos on these as well. Okay, so max glitter ball ammo be at 30. And max cat ammo be at 30 as well. Right. So we're not going to start off with full ammo on the person. We'll make the inventory public. That way, if we want to tie our HUD into it, we can have the HUD get our current ammo levels, and we can show, either a number or a scale showing our mana or whatever. Okay, so that's pretty good. So every second we are going to add 1 to glitter ball ammo. So we will get the value associated with I have cat ammo in my clipboard, so we'll do that one first. So we'll get the amount of cat ammo, and we will do a so that is our amount of cat ammo, and then that we can just increment this, increment the integer. There we go. So we will increment the amount of cat ammo by 1, and we will then this string here. Notice the FUs. Excuse me. Strings for this copy. And we will put glitter ball ammo in here. And this one we will also increment. Increment. So every second that goes by, we will increment the number of cats and the number of glitter balls we have. And then we're just going to print the value, right? We're just going to print, we just want to verify this thing works. So let's just print the amount of cats we have and print the amount of glitter balls we have. And we're about to delete this out, so I'm not going to tidy it up at all. Let's just see if that works. So we're going to hit play. And so you can see, oh, it is not setting the values. It is just getting the values, and it is not setting them back in the hash table. Okay, cool. All right, so find, and let's see here. So the increment doesn't actually allow us to edit it. So let's see here, map struct. Okay, so clean this up. So we're going to add cat ammo, and the value of cat ammo is just going to be +1. So we're going to set cat ammo to be cat ammo +1. Let's see if there's some way I can tidy this up a little bit. And then we are going to set the value of glitter ball ammo to be glitter ball ammo +1 as well. And then we'll just print these as well. Okay. Print string. Print string. String. Okay. So let's see if this will do it. So we're going to get the value of the key, 32, 33, 34, 35. Okay, sweet. So it is working now. And so for simple projects, I would probably just have a variable called shots remaining and things like that. This inventory system is for, like, if you want to have open-ended variables, like in a Borderlands style game, you know, there's not like a fixed list of weapons and things like that. There is an infinite number of possible weapons, and so you wouldn't be able to just be like, do I have the rocket launcher? You know, because they have an infinite number of rocket launchers. You know, maybe you could, maybe the rocket launcher could have different attributes on it and stuff. I don't know. There's different ways you can do it. But if you want to have sort of an open-ended inventory system, or like you can pick up sort of, you know, 100,000 different possible flowers or something, different kinds of flowers, not numbers of flowers, but kinds of flowers, then you'd use a system like this, where you can just give some name, and then you get the value using find, you set the value using add, and we can clamp this so that it doesn't exceed the maximum. So, okay, so I'm gonna do another find, and this one will be on max cat ammo, whatever I called that, max cat ammo, copy, paste. I'm gonna do one more find here, for max glitterball ammo. Click here, copy, paste, and then I'm going to do a clamp operation. So, so before we set the new cat ammo, what we're going to do is we're going to clamp this. So clamp will give you a minimum. You pass in a minimum and maximum, and it will return the maximum. Of course, it's going to be max cat ammo. So you pass in how many cat ammos you have right now. If that value is below 0, which could happen, right? If you're not careful, it could be below 0. So we'll clamp it to 0, and if the value is above max cat ammo, we clamp it to max cat ammo, and then we set it that way. Or we could use a branch, one way or the other. There's different ways of doing this. And then we'll just do the same for glitterball ammo. So we get the current amount of glitterball ammo, the minimum 0, the maximum is max glitterball ammo, and the result of that gets set. We're going to print U, and we're going to print U. And we get this horrible nest of things. There's a real opportunity here to make a function, you know, that does this for us, because this column and this column are all kind of doing the same thing. Sort of vertically stack them up here. Okay. And then when we run this, it should stay at 30 and 12, 30 and 13, 30 and 14, 30 and 15, 30 and 16. Okay. Yeah, so you can see the count on the cats is coming up. And they're not going down when I shoot because I've not implemented that code, right? And then it caps at 30. Okay, so good, the system works. And then all we need to do is build in a system where, like, when you click, it will decrement the current values and things like that. So let's see, do I have a print on here somewhere? Print string, just these two. So I like tie those into the, I could tie those into the HUD and stuff like that, but I kind of want to get to a new topic today. This is something I just was going to show last time in class, and when I had the inventory set up, when I clicked here, I didn't see the options. You know, I didn't click on the drop down. So simple mistake. So yeah, that's. Do you guys understand this? This is like a pretty generic inventory system. So you know, it kind of depends what you want, but I'll post this on here. And so that's a, you know, and then you can just add, you can add entries here to it, or you can make it so that when you like walk over something, like let's say you randomly generate flowers in your world, and when you walk over a flower, you do like an event, you know, overlap, and then it could, the flower itself could tell the player, hey, add roses +1, you know, or whatever. Or you could just randomly generate flower names, and if, you know, and then this map would get populated with all the different things you have, and then you could do things like, you could get all the values, all the keys, so you can get basically the entire array and print them to the screen or save them to a file or something. So there's a lot of things you can do with this. It's a pretty open-ended inventory system. Or you just make variables, you know, either way. Okay, so I'm going to close out of Unreal Engine now, save in everything, and we are going to switch gears because we need to talk about your mod project, okay? So the mod project is going to be your other major project. So your Unreal Engine project, we talked about that last time. I didn't post the video because ended up showing too much personal information from the students, so I just didn't post it. If you weren't here last time, we just went over people's proposals, and I gave feedback on them and ranted a bit about worker placement games. So, so your other major project is going to be a mod, and let's talk about that first, because before I show you how to mod Quake, because you do not have to mod Quake for your project. You can mod any game you want. Last semester we had students modding Minecraft. It's fine. I've had students mine Skyrim. It's pretty cool. They added a dragon bodyguard, so you walk around and this dragon just kind of walks around on the ground after you, and if you get into a fight, it takes into the air and breathes fire on people. It's pretty sweet. So, and then they also added a combat where you walk into River Run, the first town in Skyrim, and there's fire dragons and ice dragons battling in the sky. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. So you can do any mod that you want. You just need to propose it to me. But what I'm gonna teach you today and over the next couple weeks is how to mod Quake. So all of you need to download Quake. Do you guys all have it installed? Give me a show of hands. Did you guys download it from Dropbox and get everything kind of installed? Excellent. So okay. Yeah, so that is indeed what it looks like. Let me see if I can pull it up on my computer here. Yeah, okay. So I have my own Quake directory, but this is kind of like what you should see, something like this. So the shortcut, by the way, might not work depending on like your path names and things like that. You might have to remake these, but I'll go over that. So, Quake is the first true 3D first-person shooter. After about a year or two of it coming out, id Software released the source code to it. But even before they released the source code to the client and the server, they released the source code for the game code. So they had a really interesting system that, honestly, I wish had become standard. Instead, what you see is companies in recent years becoming more and more hostile to modding. Nintendo. And page. Even Quake 2, in my opinion, had an inferior modding system than Quake 1, which is why we talk about this. Okay. So more powerful, but not as good in my opinion. So here's how Quake 1 works. You have a client. This runs on your PC. And this is called Quake World Client. Yeah, probably write that better. Or in here it's called FTE QWCL. Yeah, QWCL is the name of it. FTE is the mod of it. QWCL. So Quake World Client. And we run FTE. FTE is the various people have mod, because they released the source code, so people have changed it over the years. And so your client is going to connect over the interwebs to a server. And the server is running Quake World server. Okay. And this is like, this could be on your local PC. Usually it's like on the internet somewhere. Or your PC, it's fine too. If you're doing development, you usually run the server on your own local machine. You just connect to your own local machine. It's pretty simple. But servers can have multiple clients connected to it. So you can have up to 32 different clients connected, which I always thought was kind of a small number. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why I keep forgetting the I on these things. And so you can have up to 32 connections. 33C. I don't know what's happening. 32 connections. Okay. At once. And for some reason, like, I figured that in the future we would have 64 players, 128 players, you know. Because the main limitation back then was bandwidth. You know, this was in the dial-up era. Half the people connecting are on a modem, you know. I was fortunate enough to have high-speed internet at the time because I was on campus. And, you know, the sad reality is that, you know, how big is Overwatch? How many players are in an Overwatch game? You know? Like, It's like 5v5, isn't it? Or something like that. It's like pretty ridiculously low. Paladins and all these games, like I guess Battlefield has a large number. I don't even know. Okay. Yeah, but like a lot of these modern first-person shooters have a very low player count, which is just kind of sad. Okay, so so you got all these clients, and are you doing the thing again? You're doing the thing. You're not letting me pick the thing. Good job, OneNote. All right, let me relaunch it. Thank you. Just erase all these other clients. I think you get the idea. You can have 32 connections. Okay. So you connect to a server, and you'll do this even if you're on your own machine. You'll run the server. So when you run the thing, you're gonna double click on launch server, like that, and you will see the server run. The server is a little text console. You can type status and see how many people are connected to your server and things like that. If you're going to be working on this in a group, you'll want to open up the firewall and allow people to connect to your. And when you demo it, you're going to want to have the whole class. We're all going to be playing your mod, so you're going to need to open up the firewall on your local connection, allow connections on port 27500. So anyhow, so the first thing you do is you run the server, and you can just like minimize that if you want, and then you launch the client, and the client will by default connect to your local machine. And then it's on the wrong monitor, so let me move this. Oh, something's flipping out. The audio is like glitching. I don't know what's going on with this. Okay, so there we go. Oh, this is a mod that my students made last time. Yeah, so that's not the normal audio. Anyway, so my students made an audio mod for Quake. This was their final project from one group's final project from last semester, and so you can see this is a first-person shooter. Obviously, capture the flag, that kind of stuff. Okay, so anyway, 90s graphics, yeah. Battle Royales are the main game to push player count, yeah. 16 players at most. Did it allow 16 players? 8 and 9? Okay. I thought Overwatch was 5v5, or is that like for like capture the flag or something? Is Overwatch dead? Yeah. Okay, so yeah, first step you launch the server, second step you launch the client, and I'm gonna actually delete this whole thing here and unzip it again because it has it's opened by another program. Cool. Oh yeah, the server's open. Yeah, so you can see on the server here it says so and so connected, so and so quit, that kind of stuff. So that's the server. So I'm just gonna purge that. And then I'll copy another one over. Firewall doesn't mess with the localhost server. Yeah, Windows Firewall might. You might have to hit allow when you launch it for the first time. But yeah, your firewall is like my firewall is up there on my bookshelf. And so if you're connecting to your own local machine, it's not going to affect anything. And let's see here. Where are you? Quake release. Okay. And the nail gun is missing sprites. I don't know why on the release I put together. Everything else works fine. Just the nail gun sprites are vanished. I don't know. So, yeah, let's unzip this. Okay, so the client connects to the server. Now, the server has a sort of canonical. The server has sort of the canonical representation of what is in the world. The client can only has limited abilities to cheat. There's what's called like viz hacking or wall hacking, where like the client like displays the walls as like transparent. The server can't really do much about that. But as far as like killing other people in the world, things like that, all the client can really do is say shoot the gun, you know, and then the server writes back, okay, rocket has been made or something like that. Right, so all the client can do is send commands to the server, and then the server decides if it's legal or not. So there's no serious cheating available to a client. The client at best can, like, I don't know, you could probably write a bot or something that, you know, does like an aim hack, you know, that kind of stuff. But you can't like fire faster than the server will allow. You can't move to places where the server won't allow. So yeah, so the server, the client sends a command to the server, and then the server like gets the command and like figures out what it should do, and then it sort of broadcasts to everybody. So like if you have other clients over here, I'm forgetting the I again. It's CLIENT. So you got all these different clients, and so if this guy says shoot, then the server will broadcast there has been a rocket made, and it broadcasts that to all of the different clients. So each client sends its commands to the server, then the server broadcasts changes to the world to the clients. And it only broadcasts changes you can either send it to everybody, like if somebody connects to the server, that gets broadcast to everybody. Hazleton is now connected. Oh, cool. You know, or you have what's called the PVS, and you have the PHS, which is the potentially visible set, and the potentially hearable set. So if something like an explosion occurs and somebody's across the map, you're not going to be able to see it or hear it, and so it doesn't send you the broadcast. So the server limits the bandwidth in a very clever fashion by, it has a data structure that holds what areas in the map can see which areas of the map. So if you're on that side of the map and there's an explosion or a sound is played over there, then it knows which areas you could see it and which areas you could hear it, which is not the same thing because you can hear things around corners and stuff. And so if a player's over here, it doesn't get the data broadcast to them. So it actually has a really nice network client model. Like it actually does a pretty good job minimizing the amount of bandwidth to the different clients. The amount of bandwidth you need for a good connection to a server is on the order of 5 to 10. Okay? So you need at least 5 to 10 connection speed to have a good Quake experience. Okay? With 32 players in it. Probably closer to 10. 10 what? 10 megabits a second? No. No. 10 kilobits per second. So think about that for a second. The next time you're playing on like Overwatch and it's lagging, the network connection needed by each client is about 10 kilobits a second. 10 kilobits a second. And that's actually extravagant. 5 is actually enough for like most scenarios, unless it gets really spammy and things are flying around everywhere. 10 kilobits a second. Do you know how slow a network connection that runs over? So as long as you have low latency, like any modern connection will be just fine. And you'll experience no rubber banding or any of that kind of stuff. So it's really impressive how good the network stack is. It's because back then people had modems and they did everything they could to minimize the amount of wasted bits sent over the network. Like, they scrutinized every bit. And nowadays, it's like, synchronize the whole world with every client. Somebody opens a door over there, you get told about it. Just sync the entire world state. And so they can't even handle more than, 16 players, or the thing just explodes, Is there a Linux server? Yeah, it's on there's a Linux server. It's not set up right now. No. Yeah, there's Linux servers for it, sure. Sudo. No, it's not a matter of sudo. They just didn't have the execute bit set. Because that was just the result of me unzipping a file on the server, so it doesn't set the execute permissions properly. Okay, so yeah, so here's the key thing. So the server has tons of source code. Client has tons of source code. We're actually probably not going to touch either of these things. So even though all that source code is available and you can mess them if you want to, most students don't need to. So, in fact, I don't even think I included in the Quake release. I can give it to you if you want. But the client source code is here, and the server source code is here. Winamp. What the hell? What is this, the 1990s? What's going on here? Open with Winamp. Seriously? It's freezing my system. There we go. Right click. What is all this stuff? I hate it when they install things on there. Edit with code. Okay, so VS Code is the editor we're going to be using for this project. And so the interface for VS Code, you basically right-click on a folder, choose Open with Code, and all the source code appears on the left-hand side here. And so this is all the source code for the server. Not all of it. Some of the header files are in the client directory. But like, if you ever are curious, like how a game engine works, how do you send things to a client or something, like, it's all in here. It's not especially readable. It's not especially well commented either. Often he's my buddy from Barcelona. He's messed with it a little bit. Yeah, but like if you want to print something to a client, takes a pointer to a client and a string, and the level, I think, is the priority of the message. So you can actually send messages to clients with different priority levels, and the clients can filter out messages below a certain priority level. So like when you reload your ammunition, that could be a low priority message, so the client can filter it out so they don't get spammed with unnecessary messages. And so somewhere within the code, there's going to be a server print to client function called, and this is the actual thing. So there's a reliable write function. There's also unreliable, which is more common. In video games, reliability is actually bad for performance. Because if I say reliably deliver to Hazleton a message saying he's reloaded, if that packet vanishes in transit, which does happen because this is all UDP based, UDP is a unreliable transmission system, but we use it because it has lower latency. So if I send that message to Hazleton and it vanishes, the next time they get a message from me, they'll detect the fact they didn't get the earlier message. And so then they send a message back to me saying, hey, you just sent me reliable message 169. I never got reliable message 168. And so the server will then retransmit 168, and 169 can't arrive until 168 arrives. Usually it depends how you have it set up. And then if that gets missed, and then you can add all these latencies and delays into things. And so for things like player movement, after a certain amount of time has gone by, like, it's stale. Like, you don't need to worry about retransmitting where the person was a second ago. Just send the new one. You know, so in video games, we actually use unreliable transmission all the time. And if they lose the location of Spraggins, you know, at one particular frame, who cares? You're going to transmit it again the next frame. And you might see the character glitch or something. But usually you do what's called client-side prediction, where if you know their position and you know their velocity, then you assume they're going to keep moving with the same velocity as before. So if he did in fact keep moving with the same velocity, even if you lost like all these packets, he'll still appear to move in a straight line. It'll only glitch if you like turn around or switch directions suddenly, and that if that message gets lost, then you'll see the person keep traveling forwards, and then they'll rubber band over to the left. So rubber banding happens when there's changes, usually. Changes in packet loss. Okay. You can also open the entire folder as well in VS Code. Yeah, that's what I did. I clicked on the folder and chose open with code. In Q and with, why is that even a thing? I need to delete that. Okay. Okay. So, like, it's hilarious running Winamp these days because it was from an era where 640 by 480 resolution was standard. So if you run it now, it's like this big on the screen. It's really embarrassing. Okay. So this will, however, do a reliable client write, and so it begins the thing, and it transmits a byte, which is the priority, and then it transmits a string. So there's these different underlying protocols for like how to transmit reliably and unreliably, and the server code and the client code handle all of that. What you see when you're actually going to be doing modding, because what we're going to be doing is none of this stuff. We're not going to mess with any of this stuff, actually. We're going to just close all this stuff out, not worry about any of that stuff, not worry about this stuff either, because the really clever thing is the server folder is not on the download. Yeah, I don't even give it to my students unless they ask for it, because that's not what we're going to be modding. You don't need to mod the client and the server. The reason for that is because the server, let's zoom in on the server now. Here's the server. The server has all of that code, all that code, and then it's got running inside of it a sort of thing for your game code. So your game code executes inside of the server, and the game code is what you're going to be modding. You are going to be modding the game code, and that is actually written in its own programming language. It has a special scripting language called Quake C. So it is based on the C programming language. You don't technically have to know C to do it. It's its own language. And what happens is that you take your Quake C code, and you compile it through the Quake C compiler, and you get what's called a progs.dat file. And then that gets loaded by the server. So the server, so there's a compiler and there's an interpreter, and so when you run the game, and this will be called qwprogs.dat for Quake World version of it. What happens is that when the server launches, it looks for this file called qwprogs.dat, and let's see here. Inside of the Fortress directory, because we're modding Team Fortress, there is right here. Oh, they call it Prozac.dat. That's because of my buddy in Barcelona. His Quake clan was called Prozac, so they call it Prozac.dat. It's 2.5 megabytes in size, and that's the entire mod. So the entire mod is found in the source directory, and here, let me switch over to the one that looks like what you have here. So inside of the Fortress directory, there is a directory called source code. This is what you're going to be messing with. All these .qc files are the actual source code for the mod. And then when you want to compile it, you're going to run make, which is right here. You click that, and it scrolls all this stuff up off the screen. If you get this at the end, successful, and that's it. It was compiled, and it puts the new proselect.dat, you see there, today's date, today's time, that's a new version. And so if we were to launch the server now, it's going to use the new progs. Okay? And what they are is, you don't even have to understand their file format or anything for this. All you have to understand is that inside of the source code directory is all the different source code for Team Fortress. And specifically custom Team Fortress, specifically version something or other. I don't remember. So when you compile the code, it compiles this progs file. When you launch the server, it loads it, and that tells the server how to run the game. All the game code, all the code for like firing rockets and playing sounds and all that stuff, all of that is actually run inside of this interpreter the server has. The server reads this progs.dat, and there's a file format and all this stuff you don't need to worry about. All you need to worry about is that you just edit the QC code, you compile it using make, and then the next time you run the server, it's been updated. And then the client's connected to the server, and the clients issue commands, the server uses the game code. Okay, they hit attack while they have the rocket launcher out, and they have ammo for it. Okay, let's make a rocket. And then it'll broadcast back to the clients, hey, a rocket was made, and everybody sees a rocket. And so all you need to do to modify this, you don't have to modify this source code, you don't have to modify that source code, you don't have to modify how the server interprets this weird progs.dat file, none of that. All you have to do is go into that source code directory here, and just, or you don't even have to go into it. I would right click on it and choose open with code, and we'll talk about how to get that set up in a second. And all you have to do is open that up there, and then all of the source code for custom Team Fortress is over on the left hand side here. So for example, inside of weapons.qc, you can see I modified this. I began, well, the last time I updated the copyright was in 2000. And so inside of the weapons.qc is all of the code for firing rockets and things like that. So inside of here we can find like fire, let's see here, fire rocket, there you go. So inside of here there's a function called fire rocket, and so you don't need to know anything about anything. You don't, there's 300,000 lines of code. I don't know, there's a lot of lines of code in here. You don't have to know any of it. All you have to know is that you can go to the search function here and search for, like, if there's something you want to change, you just search for that term, and we'll go through this in more detail, and you find somehow you're going to find this function, and then you can just modify it. So if you wanted to change the sound that was played every time you fire the rocket launcher, all you had to do was change this little string right here to the name of a different audio file, so you can make it go bloop or something, I don't know, just by changing that one little string right there. Then you go back into the directory, hit make, and then relaunch the server, and then every time you fire the rocket launcher, it will go bloop. Okay? So, first things first though, let's talk about getting VS Code set up. So, Visual Studio Code is the tool to use here. Visual Studio Code. So download that, and then once you have that installed, step 1, install Visual Studio Code. Step 2, you're going to go to the extensions on here, and the extensions are found right here. Control-Shift-X apparently is the shortcut for it, and you're going to install the Quake C extension. You don't have to do it, but it's nice because it kind of highlights all the colors, so it understands the language, and so it does context highlighting and things like that. So that's a neat little thing there. Quake C right there, and by Victor Feitosa. I think there's another one now, and but this one works pretty well. Okay. That makes it a mandatory mod. Other than a separate one you can get rid of. Well, you create different source code folders, right? So the source code directory, you can duplicate it, and then you'll have the original, right? And so all you have to do, if you have different mods you want to install, you just drag and drop the progs file into the directory. So inside of the Fortress directory, that file right there, that's the mod. And if you ever want to switch out the mod with a different mod, like my student's mod to do vampire weapons or something, you just overwrite that file, and now a different mod's installed. Okay, so you can just maintain a collection of all of these different progs files, and just switch them out however you want. Okay. Okay, so first step, install VS Code. Second step, install the extension for Quake C. Third step, you're gonna right-click on, let's undo this. Let's revert my changes, done save, okay. And then the third step is you're gonna right-click on source code and open with code, like that. And then what you'll see is all of the source code files for the Quake mod are on the left-hand side here. They're under the tab right here for Explorer. And all you have to do is click on one, and it'll show you all the different stuff there. We'll spend some more time, probably next week, kind of familiarizing you with where stuff is. But right now, you don't know where anything is. So there is the magnifying glass here, and the magnifying glass allows you to search the find in files tool here. That's Control Shift F. Yeah. So there's find which searches within the current file, but find in files searches across the entire thing. So we're going to probably play a little bit of Team Fortress. Not today. We don't have enough time to play it today, but like maybe next week we'll play it. There is a Team Fortress event on this Saturday called Attackers Go Reds Rocktober. And did I close the thing? Here we go. So every year it's a big annual event where people play my mod, or it's a mod of my mod, whatever. And so you guys are lucky enough to have it your semester. The spring and summer people don't get a chance to do this, where you can like have a nice, full server for a 20-something-year-old game, and basically.
Connect with another, because you connect with this other.
And so they've got their own client, I think, for it. Yeah. So if you want to play that, I'll offer you guys extra credit for playing a video game. So you're going to download the installer here, and then I think you have to register for their event. Download it here. So it's going to be on Saturday at what time? On Austin, LA, Saturday at 4 to 6. Okay. So 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock on Saturday is going to be Rocktober. And then they have weekly sessions every week for 13 years. They've been doing this. Okay. I don't know if you have to register for it. Sometimes they make you register for it. Linux. Yeah, there you go. So there's a registration link there under Play Now. And if you don't register, then certain options inside of the game aren't available for you, I think. So it's a way of making sure that the people have a registered email address, so you can't just like go on and spam and stuff like that. Yeah, certain annoying weapons are not allowed. Spamming, you can't damage teammates. So yeah, so basically go on to Play Now, download the client, and then register. Okay, and they have a FAQ on like how to play the game and stuff like that. So AGR is a mod of my mod called Attackers Go Red. So in your typical capture the flag video game, you've got a red team and a blue team, and each team has a flag, and you try to get the other team's flag and bring it back to yours. In AGR, the red team is always attacking, and the blue team is always defending. So blue is complete defense for half an hour, and red is complete offense for half an hour. And the game goes half an hour, and you try to capture the flag as many times as you can as red. If the blue team holds the flag for, I think, 5 minutes or something like that, they get a capture. And then the teams switch after half an hour. And so for the Rocktober event, it'll be 2 hours long, so there's going to be a total of 4 games. And so you play as red, then you play as blue, then you play as red, then you play as blue, and they'll switch up the teams usually if one team is dominating. Okay? So if you guys do this, it'll make up any of your missing homework assignments. So just take a screenshot of you playing a game, and you will get lots of extra credit for it. Okay? VS Code's the only ID you can write code in. Okay. Source engine support. Could use this one. Source engine support? I don't know if that would work for it, because the source engine doesn't support QC files. The source engine is based on the Half-Life engine, which is based on Quake 1, but it's a little bit down the line, I think. Yeah, you got the link there. Okay. All right, so let's do a quick mod. Okay. Let's do a quick mod and show you guys how this process works. Okay. So, or let me play the game first. Let me just launch the game and kind of explain the game, because some of you, because you're going to need to know how to run it too. So, if you want to run the game, you double click on launch the server. Console comes up. Double click on launch client, and then the client comes up, and hopefully it's not going to spam me with those horrible sounds again. that was a mod. That's not how it normally is. Okay, switch the screen over to screen 2 over here. Okay, so this is a game based on Team Fortress. So Team Fortress, for those of you that don't know, is a modification of Quake, based in part on, at least spiritually in part, on one of the original mods for Quake called Capture the Flag. Capture the Flag was kind of the first major mod of Quake, where there were 2 teams and you had a grappling hook, and they made custom Capture the Flag maps, and people would play it. 3-Wave CTF was like the first real FPS mod ever to make it big. And then Team Fortress took that idea, like, all right, we'll do Capture the Flag, and they made it more general. It's not just Capture the Flag. Team Fortress maps have a variety of different game modes, and their map system is so open-ended, you actually can make a whole bunch of different styles of games using the Team Fortress map engine. Okay. This map here is Capture the Flag, though. And so there's 2 teams, Team 1, Team 2. Team Fortress supports up to 4 teams. I've done 4-team games before with my students, which is kind of fun. When you connect, you're in observer mode. If you click the mouse, you can actually fly around and kind of learn the map. I built in a system where you can actually walk through a wall. You don't walk through the wall if you're kind of not pushing into it. So it does have a certain amount of solidity. So like here, I'm not exactly looking directly at the wall, so I hit the wall. But if I move directly into the wall, I pass through it using the power of dot product, right? Dot product is your friend, and so you can push through a wall if the dot product is within a certain range, and that's by clicking. So you can kind of fly around. There's no gravity, right? And you can kind of learn a map. This is a standard Capture the Flag map. There is a flag on each side, and your goal is to go into the other team's tower, take the flag, which looks like a little key here, and then run it back to your side. And so there's a variety of entrances and things like that serve as choke points, and your goal is basically to run it out of the enemy base and then go through the open zone, dodging snipers along the way, going to your base. To get in the front door, you have to hit a button there. You come in through the front door, come into your base, and then you capture the flag by walking through this thing here. Okay. Every time you capture the flag, you get 10 points. Every time you kill an enemy person, you get 1 point. And whichever team has the person with the highest score at the end of half an hour wins. And that there's a little pause when I said that because that's all configurable. You can have games go until somebody hits 100 points. Or you can have no individual scoring at all, so killing people gives you absolutely nothing. And the only scoring is from capturing the flag. That's another option. There's all sorts of options. So when you join a team, I'll join Team 1, which is blue. It'll ask you which class you want to play as. And if you've ever played Team Fortress again, these probably look pretty familiar to you, scouts and pyros and things like that. The innovation that I added to Team Fortress was that thing on the bottom there where it says custom. Okay, and so custom allows you to make your own class. So you can play a soldier who can heal people like the medic, or you can play a sniper that can pretend to be the other side like the spy. Okay, so when you go into custom mode, it gives you a budget, and then you allocate your points into speed and armor and weapons and things like that. But when you start playing it, you should probably just pick one of the existing classes. I'll pick the soldier, I guess. And the soldier is your standard Quake character. He's got a lot of armor. He's got the second best armor in the game. He's got a rocket launcher. You can see the game. The game actually doesn't look bad, even though this is a old game. The graphics are actually not bad. I'm using something called the FTE Quake engine, and FTE is actually pretty decent looking. It's got support for things like bloom, and if you turn bloom on, you'll see, different lights and things like that will have a little glow around them. So yeah, it's not a terrible looking thing. You can definitely count the triangles. You know what I mean? Like you can definitely see the polygons. But the game doesn't look terrible. It's actually, as far as these things go, the graphics are fine. The frame rate I'm getting right now is let's see, does it show FPS? True. So I got VSync on, so I'm getting 98 frames a second on this. Let's see, VSync. Turn off VSync. If I disabled VSync, you'll see I'm getting probably, I don't know, 400 frames a second or something. It's like, pretty good. So you got bloom turned on, so these things are glowing a little bit. I've got Jello water turned on by default. Oh no, I don't actually. Never mind. So you saw that in the previous thing. When I hit the water, I bounced off of it. That was a bug. I implemented Scuba Gear, and so to do the Scuba Gear, what I did was I added a vertical velocity to counteract gravity, and I accidentally was off by a factor of 10, and so whenever you hit the water, you'd fly into the air, and I just was so amused by that because it was just fun. You jump onto water and you just bounce off like a trampoline, that I actually left it in as a server-side option. So built-in MP3 player, multiplayer, join a game, so that it's got a server browser, and what else? Video options. So it supports HDR output. Like it's pretty simple. Look at that brightness, huh? All of a sudden, yeah. So there's this is a modern. It's a modern looking graphics engine. The main limitation on it is that since this was made back in the day, the polygon count just isn't very high. So you can see things like that, which you wouldn't see in a modern game. That said, modern games, they add so much decorations and things like that, that you actually get caught on them a lot. Like if you're playing a game and you're like running backwards and like shooting at people, you don't want to get caught on like these decorative pillars and things like that, right? You want to just be able to move backwards and, you know, slide around. Whereas if you have these little columns and things like that sticking out that map makers love doing these days, you get stuck on them and then you die, and it's kind of annoying. Okay, so that's the game. Basically, you go into the enemy base, get the flag, bring it back. Okay. So if we wanted to mod something, basically what you should do is just play the game a little bit and get a feel for how things work, and open the firewall. The firewall port is 27500. That's the port you need to open to get it to work. And we don't have time today, but maybe on Tuesday I'll open up my port. We can all play together and kind of get. In order to mod something, you have to understand it first. You can't, you know, just mod something. You have to kind of get a feel for what you like and what you don't like. So let's say though that you don't like that. You don't like that sound. The sound of the rocket launcher offends you. So all of the game assets are pretty much found inside of the Fortress directory. Anything inside of id1 has like the core Quake sounds and things like that in it. But inside of the Fortress directory, you can see there's a sounds directory here, and there are a lot of sounds available. Spear2.wave. I don't know what this does. Okay, now Winamp doesn't have an option for it. That's hilarious. That's too funny. All right, I'll launch iTunes of all things. What is going on with this world?
Chaos will reign supreme!
Okay, not what I expected for a file named Spear2. Oh no, copyright strike. Okay, yeah, that's the new Pink Floyd album, which I did not know that Pink Floyd had made a new album, but they did. It's a little bit odd. Okay, so Chaos will reign supreme. I don't know. All right. So anyway, so this is this is called Spear2.wave. Okay, Spear2.wave. I'm just going to copy that. Let's change it so the rocket launcher plays Chaos will reign supreme whenever we fire the rocket launcher. Okay, so I don't need you anymore. I don't need you anymore. No. Here we go. Okay. So I'm going to acclimatize you more with the source code where things are in the future, but for now, just understand that if you come up here and search for like rocket, like if you want to do something with the rocket launcher, you're going to get 971 results. And so there's kind of a process to finding the actual place where sounds are played. Like if you're trying to find where is the place where it plays that sound for the rocket launcher, there's kind of a process you go through. I'm not going to walk you through it now because we're running out of time. But here it is. We found the place. And so inside of here, there is a thing called that. I'm just going to YYP this. And I'm going to make a note on 10.21.21. I change this. And I do this so that I can remind myself what to take out. So I'm going to delete this thing here. And I'm going to just put that wave file in there. Now, there is one thing you have to know if you're going to be modifying sounds, and that's you have to pre-cache any sound before you can use it. If you don't pre-cache it, it'll yell at you. So, what is pre-caching? That means when you launch the level, Quake has a list of all the different songs and sounds and everything that can be played during that level. It knows that in advance. Whereas if you had something like this, it wouldn't know that necessarily this thing would appear. And so if you surprise it by like, you click the rocket launcher and it's like, load the sound, then the game would kind of freeze for a second when it has to spin up the hard drive and go to the spot on disk where that sound is and load it into memory. And if you did this for every sound, it would make for a very bad game experience. And so it's very common for games to have a loading screen, right? We have a loading screen because we want to load stuff prior to the game running rather than during the game running. Because if you have to load while the game is running, you will get a hitch. You know, if it's a small file, you click, there's a pause, and then, you know, chaos will reign supreme. Super annoying. And so if you want to play any sound or if you want to use any model or something like that, all of them have to be pre-cached. Now, you might be wondering, where do I put the pre-cache? I don't see it on here. Well, let's cheat, okay? I'm just going to copy this file here, weapons sgun1.wave, and I'm going to go Control-Shift-F, and I'm going to see every place where sgun1 wave appears. And right here, there's a command called precache sound. Okay, so I'm going to just click on that, and I'm just going to copy and paste the precache line, and I don't even know where I am in the world, and I'm just going to precache sphere2.wave. So do you guys understand this this method? Like the source code is gigantic. There's 300,000 lines of code, and that's after I stripped out about 100 or 200,000 lines of code of redundant code. I've actually spent quite a lot of time making my code smaller, and so you don't have to know where everything is. You don't have to know what all 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 lines of code do. All you have to do is be able to find the area of code that does the thing that you want to change and just change that bit. And so like I didn't know where precache sound was, so I just searched for, well, here was the old sound. So I'm just going to search for that, and over here you can see it's playing the sound and playing the sound and playing the sound, playing the sound. Oh, precache sound. Click. You just click on it, and it takes you to the right spot. I don't know where I am. I don't care. Hit save. Okay. And then I'm going to just minimize VS Code in case I want to come back in there later, because I don't know if I got the path name right to the sound. It might not play anything, you know. And so what I'm going to do is go into the source code directory. And I set up a shortcut for this, which you probably want to do. So here is make.bat. I'm going to create a shortcut to it. And I'm going to just move that shortcut up to the Quake release directory here. And so then I don't need to keep constantly going into the directory and coming out of it. Instead, I could just stay here and just launch make.bat from there. And it compiled fine. Done. It does all the work for you, moves the files around, all that stuff. Done. If you get an error, then it won't do anything more. It'll just print you did something wrong, you need to fix it. But if it works fine, it just, you're not seeing it over there. It prints all this stuff on the screen. It goes like that. And then if you see this at the end, you're good. If you don't see an error, you're good. And everything's ready to go. You could quit the server and relaunch the server, but you don't need to. All you have to do is change the map. Every time you change the map, it reloads the progs. You see that? Right there. Prozac.dat. So it loads the map, loads the progs, and builds a potentially hearable set and tells you how big the map is in different terms and things like that. And how many models are pre-cached, how many sounds are pre-cached, how many edicts are used. So we are pre-caching 196 sounds right now out of a maximum of 256. The reason why there's a limit of 256 sounds is because when you play a sound, it actually will just send a single byte to the client saying play sound 72. And with 1 byte of data, you can have a total of 256 sounds playable by the client. So everything is designed with the goal of minimizing the amount of network traffic to each of the clients. And so there's 256 possible models, same thing. You can pick out which model a client's gonna, like if you create a rocket, you say, give it model number 37. And that's 1 byte of data, which model. You don't have to send the whole string, you just send a byte. And so on and so forth. So, so once you relaunch the server, then if your client was connected, which I quit, so it wasn't, the client will automatically come along for the ride. Let me switch it over again. So the client automatically will reconnect to the new thing as well. And so if I have the soldier here, where's my mouse? There we go. Oh, who's that guy? Ah! Oh, this is pre-match mode.
Chaos will reign supreme! Chaos will reign supreme! Chaos will reign! Chaos will reign supreme!
So there's pre-match mode enabled, so if you try leaving before then, it kills you. Okay. And then after pre-match mode is over, then the game begins, and there you go. This is Two Forts, which is one of the more famous maps ever made in Quake. Alright. So that's a mod. Okay. Is the spear .wave. Everything's a .wave file. And it's in the main sound directory. So in the main sound directory there is spear 2 right there. If it's in a folder, like before it was the thing we had before was in weapons S-gun somewhere. Then you have to give the folder if it's in a folder. If it's just in the root sound directory, we just pass in spear 2.wave, sword 2.wave. It's gonna launch.
Death before dishonor.
I don't even know where these things are coming from. Okay. There's a lot of just random sounds that I don't even know where they came from, honestly. These are my sounds that I made. Oh, that was from Warcraft. Don't sue me, Blizzard. You got enough legal issues right now, anyway. That was, I think that was a modified version of the Ogre Mage, maybe. I don't know. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. Don't sue me. It's original, maybe. I don't know. Who knows? Why is iTunes? It's such a stupid. Like, it plays a sound. It's like, and now we're gonna play Pink Floyd right after we play a random wave sample. Orc Bloodlust. Yeah. So yeah, so whenever you pre-cache a sound, it looks in the sound directory. Anytime you pre-cache a model, it goes into the progs directory, which is where the models are. So this is the MDL format. If you guys have used Blender, and I know some of you have used Blender before, you can edit the MDL format if you install the Blender Mdl plugin. So, do I have Blender on here? So that's another mod you can do. And so basically, over the next week or so, I'm going to familiarize you with the game and the resources and how to do it, and then you're going to propose a mod to me. And by default, you're going to make a Quake mod, but if you have some other game that you really want to mod, Fallout New Vegas or something, you can go for it. So Blender, okay, it's over here. And then, where's the plugins? It's in our preferences. Add-ons. Don't have it. Okay, so I think I did a fresh install of Blender. So Blender Mdl plugin. Yeah. Sweet. Well, whatever. Basically, you can download an MDL plugin for Blender, and then that'll allow you to open up these files, and you can modify them as well. The maps themselves are made using a Quake map editor, so there's no like Blender doesn't make the maps. You have to use a Quake map editor to make these things. And BSP stands for binary space partition. It's a data structure that allows you to quickly determine what things are visible. You can quickly draw lines through the world to see what you hit, things like that. So it's a different game engine than Unreal Engine, but all the same concepts that we've been talking about inside of Unreal Engine, they're all here as well. Like if you want to do a line trace in Quake C, it is called trace line. So it's exactly the same thing as line trace, except it's called trace line. And so when you do a trace line, you give it a position, a starting point, an ending point. You give it a class of things that it can collide with, somebody to ignore. Like it's basically the same parameters that Unreal Engine has. Unreal Engine has just a few more options in it. And it will return a hit result. Let's see here. It's a global, so it doesn't actually return from the function. It actually sets globals, which is a weird thing that Quake C does. So when you do a trace line, you know how in Unreal Engine, when you do a trace line, it returns that hit struct, that like it tells you the place, the location that it hit, and how far along it, like what percent. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Do I need to launch Quake or Unreal Engine? Yeah, I need to launch it, or you know what I'm talking about. Like when you do it, when you do a line trace and it has the hit result. You remember? Okay. Yeah. So the exact same thing is returned in Quake. There's just less detail. Like for the Unreal Engine, it can tell you which bone you hit. That doesn't exist in Quake because Quake doesn't have skeletal meshes. Quake only has static meshes, and it does animations by cycling through the skeletal meshes. So there's no blend spaces. All the fancy pants animation doesn't work. All it does is it cycles through different frames of animation. So that option doesn't exist. But basically, yeah, there's a global called trace int. That's the person you hit. So if you have a hit scan weapon, you do a trace line from my position to my position. Remember how we had the forward vector times the range? The exact same thing. So starting point, my location, ending point, my location, plus the unit vector, the direction I'm looking, 1 centimeter, times, I don't know, is 200 meters probably. The units are different in Quake C. They're not exactly a centimeter, so I don't know exactly what they correspond to. But if you think of them as centimeters, you're not going to be too far off. Order of magnitude too far off. So from my location to the direction, to my location plus the direction I'm looking, times 200 meters or 20 meters, something like that. I don't know. Intersect with everything and ignore myself. So the trace line ignores me. And if it hits something, the trace int global variable is set. And then you can grab things off that person or the thing that was hit. So if the thing that we hit was a player and they're a thief, then it doesn't ID them. So you can't use the ID command to find invisible thieves because you can turn invisible in the game. And so what people were doing was they were hitting ID. And so, they would buy an upgrade that would auto ID things. So when you look at things, it shows the name on them. And so what they do is they'd sit there and stare at a doorway, and if a thief was invisible, it'd show their name. And so I had to turn that off. So in 2009, I turned off the ability to ID enemy thieves. Yeah, and then you can grab the origin is their location. There's like trace, what's it like? Trace fraction. Trace underscore fraction. Yeah. So, so you do a trace line from this position to this position. This isn't intersecting everything. It's only intersecting BSPs, which is like the map, basically. And ignoring myself, of course. And then if the trace fraction is less than 1, so remember how in Unreal Engine it tells you how far along the line you got until you hit something? It's the exact same thing. So if it's 0, it hit something immediately. If it's 1, it got to the end without hitting anything. And so what this is saying is that if we did the trace line and we hit something in the map, then what it's going to do is do another trace line moving the starting point and on the ending point a little bit. And basically what this is doing is if you're underwater and you pop up out of the water, so if we hit the water, then it moves the starting and ending point. So it's basically determining if we're porpoising up out of the water. And if we do, then it gives you a vertical boost. Because actually climbing up out of water is actually really annoying in video games. Valheim, for example, you get stuck in the water. It doesn't have a water jump. And so this code here is using trace lines to basically see if you're up, if you're kind of coming up out of the water, then trace plane normal. So it also tells you the normal, right? So like when you hit something with the line trace in Unreal Engine, it gives you the normal. And so this is doing it's getting the normal of the water you're coming up out of, and it's gonna porpoise you in the direction that is normal to the water. So you're gonna come out perpendicular to the water. And so it turns on the water jump flag. It gives you a kick of velocity, and then it doesn't allow you to do it again for like 2 seconds or it doesn't allow you to teleport for 2 seconds or something. Oop, what was that? Did I do that? Yeah, okay. So, yeah, and so this trace fraction thing, it's the same thing in Unreal Engine, right? And the trace normal is the same thing. It's just they're held in globals instead of in that pen that you break open and stuff like that. So many things you can mod. Yeah, it's really quite expansive. And like, it's very rare for a student to have a mod idea that I'm like, no, that's impossible in the Quake engine. In part because the source code to the Quake engine is available, right? So if you did want to do something that is impossible in the Quake engine, like for example, I think you can't, like things with the camera are like kind of wonky. Like you can't, I think, move the camera attached to the player around. Because you want to do that sometimes, right? Like if you like you can build a camera in the game, and so like we wanted to make it so that you could like view through the camera, right? So you could build a security camera. Like if you're on defense, it'd be nice. Like you put up a security camera in a quarter, and then if you could like hit a button and like switch to the camera, you'd like, oh look, there's a bad guy coming, you know. But the engine actually doesn't support that. The engine does not support moving the camera away from the player, and so that would be kind of a cool mod idea. But you'd have to mod the server and the client to make that happen, because it's not allowed by the server. It's just not something. What's really funny is that you could do that in the original Quake, and that's the thing that really galls me, is that like in the original Quake engine that was released in 1996, you could move the camera away from the player. There's a view offset variable that you can move. And when they released Quake World, which is the version we use, Quake World was optimized for online play. They removed that ability for who knows what reason. Maybe they just didn't want to implement it. So when you're connecting to a Quake server over the internet, you can't move the camera away from the player. The code's in there. It's just if you try doing it, nothing happens. The server does not replicate that out to the client. So. That'd be some intense camping with a mod like a second camera, yeah. So all the camera does in the game right now is that if an enemy player walks in, it goes bloop, Torres spotted, you know, and so it'll notify you when it sees an enemy, but you can't move your camera. So there are some limitations like that. You also can't rotate the camera. So the camera always has Z being upwards. There's no ability to do a barrel roll. People have made like airplane mods in the past, and you can't actually rotate the camera like this. You can look up and down and left and right. So there's pitch and yaw, but there's no roll. I believe if you try setting the roll, it either doesn't exist or it doesn't work, one or the other. But really, if you think about the Unreal Engine, like, I kind of always assume Z is up also, I guess. For at least their starter code, you know? So I don't know. It's more flexible. Unreal Engine's definitely more flexible. But networking is way easier in this. Quake C makes networking really, really easy. So all you basically don't have to do, like, all the stuff in Unreal Engine you have to do to get replication to work. It's a complete pain. In Quake World, all you do is, move the player. If you want the player to move somebody, you just change their position. And then the server detects that the player's location has changed, and it will push out a notification to every client who could see the person, either before or after that person's moved. It figures it out. It's like magic. So it just keeps a track of who can see what things, and if those things have moved, then it sends you a notification they moved. And it does so with as few bits as possible. Because most of the time when you move, you don't move very far, and so it uses delta compression and things like that to really minimize the amount of bandwidth required. Okay. So that is our little intro to Quake 1. Again, if you have any missing homework assignments, if you participate in Rocktober 2021, an opportunity only available to my fall IS-50A students, it will make up for any of your missing homeworks. And all you have to do is just take a screenshot of you playing. You got to play for at least, I don't know, an hour or something. So I'll be there, and you can, and you can. It'll help you get a feel for what it's like. Their mod is different. They have these ugly yellow faces, which look really kind of disgusting and horrible. But they have expressions, so they go, yeah. So he added expressions to it, but they just look really low quality, I guess. Okay. Trevor was in the forums that failed the question asked. What was the question asked on the forum? What color is Red's face or something? I put red and it failed. It's probably going to be yellow. Yeah, the players' faces in AGR are all yellow for... Like, I was like, is this a bug? Like, because I'm playing, like, I go on there and it's like my game, but modified. And so I'm like, is this a bug? Like, everyone's faces are yellow. He's like, no, it's a feature. Okay. So try yellow. Okay, so that's it for today, guys. I will see you guys on Tuesday. Have fun playing Quake in the meantime, and your homework assignment will be making a simple inventory system using the mapping between strings and integers. Okay? Who goes red in this mod? Attackers go red. Attackers go red. Okay, I'll see you guys.